The brand new system is called Lightning Lanes.
Ka-chow! Welcome back to Traveling Days.
I'm Laura.
I'm Carl.
Today we're talking about Disney World.
We used to be cast members at Walt Disney World. And one of the perks of working for Disney and for Walt Disney World in particular is you get to go into the parks as much as you want. And we got pretty good at enjoying the parks, got really good at going to our favorite rides, favorite attractions.
When we were coming back to the park after 10 years, and we knew that FastPass had been replaced, but we didn't know with what. And so we started to do our research, but it was quite confusing. So this video for you guys is the guide we wish we had had going in to the parks and trying to figure out lightning lanes. The lightning lanes are a pass system where you can pay to skip the lines on the rides. For most rides, this works out to be 10 minutes or less, where popular rides can have wait times upwards of 2 hours on a busy day in the summer.
Now, when they implemented the Lightning Pass, we thought it was just a cheap cash grab, because now people have to pay to have the same privilege. Now, it may very well have been a strategy for Disney to scrape some extra money out of its guests, but I think there are also some benefits to it, some good reasons for implementing it.
This new system, the Lightning Lanes, just got released in July 2024. So we didn't realize this when we first decided to go back to the parks, but it was really a brand new system. And so there's a lot of value that Disney has added to these. It's pay to play, but it's not just pay to have shorter lines. That's not the only things that they're offering. So in addition to being able to kind of cut the line, you can have those scheduled. That's something that was missing in FastPass. In FastPass, you got the ticket, but if you didn't get to that park till later in the day, all the FastPasses for that ride would be gone, and then you would just be out of luck. You'd have to stand in the standby line.
We also only get FastPass for the park that you're in, because you had to physically be present at the line for the attraction that you wanted to do. But with the Lightning Lane, it's now integrated with your mobile smart devices. And with some caveats, you can pick a ride in another park if you have the park hopper on your tickets to attend later in the day.
The other value that the Lightning Lanes adds is if the ride includes a photograph, you can download those for free. You just have to connect it in your app, the photo number, to get that download. So that's included as well, and before you had to go and purchase it separately.
Yeah, if you do not purchase the Lightning Pass, you would have to purchase those photos separately.
You get timed entrance into the attraction. Generally, that means a wait time of 10 minutes or less, versus the standby line where the wait time can be, the longest wait time that I've ever seen are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 hours for really popular rides at peak time. So there's the two types of lightning lanes, and the way I like to think of these is like if you go to the state fair, you've got a couple of options for riding the rides. You can either buy tickets and then pay for each ride by a certain number of tickets, or you can pay a little more and get a wristband, and that lets you on all the rides. Unlimited. So it's not exactly like that, but if you're having trouble keeping the two kinds of lightning lanes separate in your mind, I think that analogy might help. The single pass lightning lane, that's like paying with tickets. You pay one fee and it gets you on one ride. Multi-pass is like having a wristband. You can use many different rides with the one fee, and in both cases you're scheduling in advance before you go onto the ride. 5 attractions across the 4 parks have the single pass lightning lane. The cost of the single pass lightning lane varies depending on the ride. When we were in the parks, the prices from a low end $12 for the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train to the very most expensive was $25 for Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. You can purchase single pass lightning lanes up to 3 weeks in advance. And I definitely recommend doing that for the most popular attractions, getting in there as early as you can if you know you're planning to buy these. It's right now the middle of October, early October, and so we're definitely into shoulder season, but it's still a week out to get single passes for Tron. So I would definitely recommend, if you think you want to do a lightning lane for Tron, and Mine Train is another really popular one. Any of the lightning lanes, really, the single pass lightning lanes, if you know you want to do it, go ahead and get those passes as far out as possible, right around 3 weeks.
And they offer them by the time period, right? So you get to choose what time you want to go. So the longer you wait, the more of those ideal times, your preferred times, are going to be taken up by other people.
When we're talking about the single pass lightning lanes, once they're gone for a date, they're gone. There's no more coming back. So if you really wanted to do that ride, now you have to stand in the standby line. When you go to buy single pass lightning, you can see what times are available on the dates you're looking at before you make the purchase. And this can be helpful if you have a multi-day, multi-park ticket. You can use what days and times are available or ideal for you to determine which parks you're going to be in that day. So if you're looking only a week out and Tron is available on the Tuesday of your time at Disney World, then Tuesday's the day to do Magic Kingdom. Or if you are wanting to do it at an earlier time than is available on Tuesday, but you're also going to be there on Wednesday and you can see Wednesday has that earlier time, then maybe you would change which day you're going to that park in accordance with what lightning passes are available.
So the single pass lightning lane is for the top most attractions, the ones that opened most recently. They're still the most popular. They're the attractions that there's going to be long lines at no matter what, because everybody wants to ride them. And so the single pass lightning lane is Disney's way of controlling how many guests go to those rides. So they use the single pass for the top tier attractions. The multi-pass lightning lane is for kind of those mid-tier attractions, still popular but not as popular as the newest attractions. And this is the pass that you can use to get on multiple rides throughout the park. But once you have your tickets, you have the option to purchase the multi-pass and add that to your tickets. Now, the multi-pass that you purchase will vary depending on what park you're going to go to, or the park that you're going to start in if you're on a park hopper pass. The price for the multi-pass varies by the park that you're going to enter. If you are going into Animal Kingdom first, we found that, at least at the time that we went, to be the least expensive multi-pass to purchase, and Magic Kingdom, by contrast, is the most expensive multi-pass that you can purchase. But once you purchase the multi-pass, if you park hop from there, it doesn't matter which multi-pass you purchase, you get free reign of all of the attractions in all of the parks. But for whichever one you purchase, that's the park that you're going to start out at. That's where you're going to pick your first 3 attractions that you want to do. So we went to Animal Kingdom, so we picked 3 attractions that we wanted to do in Animal Kingdom. We tried to arrive as early as we can so that we could get there before some of the lines got really long. But we also had some attractions on our multi-pass to make the day go quicker too, because we were trying to do as much as we could in one day. At the time we bought our tickets, the price varied from $18 to $29 per person to add the multi-pass to your ticket. $18 for Animal Kingdom, $29 for Magic Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios and Epcot were between that.
When you're deciding which park to go to, or considering which park to start a park hopping day at, it can be tempting to choose Animal Kingdom just because it's least expensive, or any other park besides Magic Kingdom because it's quite a bit more expensive. If you're thinking that your most important ride is in a certain park, and if you miss that ride, you're going to be seriously disappointed, I highly recommend paying the extra few dollars per person and starting in that park so that you can make sure that you get to that ride.
And then the benefit of being in that park, say Magic Kingdom, for when you first start out, because your first 3 attractions are in Magic Kingdom, is that you can go and do other things in that park as well.
You can buy a multi-pass up to 3 weeks in advance. You can't schedule your multi-pass attractions until 3 days before your ticket starts if you are doing a regular ticket, or 7 days in advance if you are staying in a resort hotel at Disney World. You can schedule all your days in the park that are attached to the same ticket on that day 7 or that day 3. So I haven't tried this myself, we haven't tried this yet, but it might, especially if you're having a longer ticket or you're visiting Walt Disney World at peak season, it could be worthwhile to have at least one night early on in your stay that is at a resort hotel in order to get that extra time to make sure that you're getting those multi-pass lightning lanes at the times that you want. And you are competing against that if you wait until the last minute to book your multi-pass lightning lane.
Once you've reserved the 3 attractions that you want to use first, it gives you certain reporting times that you are to be at that attraction in order to be admitted. The windows for entering that attraction are an hour long, and so if you show up in that window, they have a scanner. You scan your ticket. You scan your phone if that's where your tickets are on, or they also sell nifty little wristbands. So you scan that at the entrance of there's a separate entrance for multi-pass, and if the light turns green, you're okay to come in. If the light turns red, you're too early or you missed your window. Now, the window that it gives you is an hour, but we learned with some research that there's actually an extra 2-hour grace window on top of that. So you have up to 3 hours technically to...
And 5 minutes.
3 hours and 5 minutes.
Yeah, the 5 minutes is for the people who can't wait for their window to open. If you're 5 minutes early, it'll let you in.
When you're first starting out your day, after you check into your very first attraction, then you get to pick another attraction for later in the day for a multi-pass. And you can also pick it in another park if you have the park hop.
And what we found, thanks to video by allears.net, that in that 2-hour grace period window after your official window has ended, you can fill that space again, even before you've done that ride, so long as that 1 hour official has passed. We started the day in Animal Kingdom. The 3 rides that we had chosen were Dinosaur Ride, Expedition Everest, and due to a mistake in confusing the river rides, Kali River Rapids, I meant to get the Navi River Journey.
There weren't 2 river rides when we were here before.
It's true. We picked our first 3, and then while we were waiting for our multi-pass times, we went to Flights of Passage, which the wait time was quite long. I think it was about 70 minutes when we first got there. So we looked, and you can book single pass. You can book those up to 3 weeks in advance, but if they're still available, you can also book them the day of. So we decided to book that. It was $17 per person, and we were like, yes, worth it to not wait in line for 90 minutes while we're trying to do a 4-in-1 park hopper day. We did that ride. And then we stood in the standby line for Navi River Journey because our multi-pass turned out to be for Kali River Rapids.
And we weren't within the window for our other attractions.
Right, we weren't yet in the window for our other attractions. I think our Dinosaur was at 10, and our Expedition Everest was at 11. We finished up in Pandora right about 11. So that was the end of our Dinosaur window and the beginning of our Expedition Everest window, official windows. And we decided to walk up through Africa and around over to do Expedition Everest first, since we knew about the 2-hour grace window, that we would make it to Dinosaur in time. So on our way over to Expedition Everest, we checked the app, and sure enough, Dinosaur had fallen off But because we hadn't actually done Dinosaur, and we had not actually tapped into any rides, we were not able to book a ride in a different park, or even replace that ride actually, until we tapped into Expedition Everest. And as soon as we had tapped into Expedition Everest, both our slots became available again, and we booked 2 rides, I think, in Magic Kingdom on our way over to Dinosaur, and we're still able to tap successfully into Dinosaur, I think right around 11:30. Other thing, when you're doing a multi-pass lightning lane, at the beginning of the day, popular rides would usually show as fully booked for the day. But with the multi-pass lightning lanes, people can change them as they go throughout the day. Maybe there was a really short standby line early on in the day, so they just stood in the standby line, and now they don't need their multi-pass line. Or something came up and they decided to go to a different park, or whatever happens. People can drop those as the day goes on. And so it's very common for things to become available later in the day, and sometimes only a short time before the time window starts.
Now, when we say that they often become available again throughout the day, that was our experience in what Laura calls the shoulder season. If you go at a busier time, your results may vary.
Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind when you're booking your initial 3 attractions is that only one of them can be what Disney considers to be a top-tier attraction. And those will be indicated on the app. You'll only be able to choose one of those out of your 3.
The tiers are in 3 of the 4 parks. Animal Kingdom doesn't have tiers, but Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Magic Kingdom all do. And the tiers only matter until you've done that first top-tier attraction for the day. Once you've done that attraction, then you can fill any attraction spot with any ride, so long as it's got a multi-pass lightning lane available. You could have up to 3 of those top-tier attractions in your multi-pass at the same time. Especially when you're deciding in advance which attractions you want to do, you want to keep in mind that some attractions it may or may not make sense to actually use a multi-pass lightning lane for, especially in advance. Good examples of this, we had the option to do Pirates of the Caribbean. It had wide open availability all afternoon for a multi-pass lightning lane. But we were already in the park, and we decided to walk by, and the standby line was 10 minutes. And we spent that 10 minutes in the line, which was really more like 2 minutes.
It was a walk-on.
Just walking up and getting on the ride. So in that case, it doesn't really make sense to hold that slot for a ride that you're going to be able to walk on anyway. Another great example of this is Spaceship Earth.
As a former attractions host of the world-famous Spaceship Earth attraction, I can speak from experience that when people are entering the park for the first time in the day, it's the first attraction that they come across, and so they go right on, and so the lines tend to be very long in the morning. But if you go towards the end of the day, it's almost always a walk-on ride. So keep that in mind when you're planning your day. Go and ride some of the other rides. If the line for Spaceship Earth is too long, come back later, it'll be a walk-on.
Yeah. If you're doing more than 10-minute wait for Spaceship Earth, you're doing it wrong.
But do it. It's worth it.
The other thing it really doesn't make sense to use your multi-pass lightning lanes spots for in advance is shows. Unless you're going to be completely devastated, or your kid is going to be completely devastated if they missed Finding Nemo, The Big Blue, and Beyond, don't bother with a lightning lane. The shows tend to have plenty of seating for the demand, plenty of space all day long for the vast majority of the shows, most of the parks. The question I think a lot of people are going to have is it worth it? Disney World is already so expensive. We were looking into lightning lanes before our trip. We had this question too. And we didn't decide until about, 48 hours before our trip that we were going to do the multi-pass. It was when we realized that we would have no hope of doing any of the stuff, half the stuff we wanted to do in the parks without it. 4-in-1 park hopper day.
And there were some rides, because we hadn't been there in over 10 years, there were some cool new things that we would be really disappointed if we didn't get to see it.
Didn't really understand the single pass lines beforehand, so we probably would have purchased Tron, flights of passage ahead of time if we really understood how those worked. We were able to buy a single pass ticket.
We decided the multi-pass was worth our time, given that we only had one day that we were going to be in the park. We were going to try to see something in every park, and there were certain things that we knew that we wanted to see because we'd never seen them before. So yes, we decided that it was worth it for us. Now, when we got to Animal Kingdom and we saw the line for Avatar Flights of Passage, Avatar Flights of Passage was one of the rides that I really wanted to do because well, you'll have to see our other video to understand why Pandora, the world of Avatar, was such a cool place that I was looking forward to seeing. But Avatar Flights of Passage was one of the attractions that I really wanted to see, and it was not available through MultiPass. So were we going to just do standby, or were we going to do a single pass to skip the line? The line for Avatar Flights of Passage was over an hour long, and we had a lot to do that day. So we calculated how many hours we were going to be in the parks against our the price of our tickets, and decided that it was actually a good investment to purchase a single lane pass for Avatar Flights of Passage so that we could go and do it and go and do all the other things that we plan to do.
If you enjoy the calm that comes from having the lines pre-scheduled, if you enjoy the atmosphere of the parks and spending more time in that atmosphere between rides instead of standing in the still very atmospheric lines, or if you're a person that just gets really squirrely in those long lines, standing more or less still for an hour or however long the ride line is.
Or if you have 5 of those persons with you.
If it doesn't make a big deal in your world as far as the pricing goes for the number of people you have in your family and your budget for your vacation, I would highly recommend getting all the passes for all the things that you know you're going to want to do.
With that said, let me say something else about why you might not want to use single pass or multi-pass. So Disney also is well known for making their lines very interesting places to stand and wait for this ride. That's not true of all rides, but it was true of Avatar Flights of Passage. The line snaked around a bit outside around the floating mountains, and then it went inside. And as we passed all those poor schmucks standing in line in the single lane, I caught glimpses of the line that they were standing in, and it was more of this alien environment that they were getting to enjoy. And even though for us it was a good choice for the amount of time that we had and the things that we were trying to squeeze into a day, a big part of me wishes that I had waited in the line and was able to see more of this environment. Well, we hope that you found this video informative. We hope that you now feel like you are informed about the lightning lanes than we did when we were going to the park. And subscribe so that you can see more of our adventures in Disney World
And the rest of the world.